I figured since you're the resident soy boy of the Vanguard, Gavin is a non-meat eater, might have to weigh into this ContraPoints Twitter rant, if you want to call it that, this thread of controversy, if you'll call it that. I thought this was fake when I saw it last night. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. If you don't linger on all parts of BreadTube, it's just this specific Vanguard part of BreadTube. You might not be as familiar with ContraPoints, although I don't know how you could be familiar with the Vanguard and not ContraPoints. She's literally one of the biggest fucking voices on the internet and YouTube in general. When she puts out a fucking video, everybody watches it. All the biggest streamers will react to it. Anyway, you probably know who she is. Either way, she is basically one of those people who typically would not put out a statement like this. And Gavin, we can go ahead and throw it up on the screen because, in fact, I can remember multiple occasions where she has roasted people for takes along these lines. And essentially what she weighed in to do in hot controversy was to decry tofu, which is something that I've actually incorporated as a more major part of my diet since moving in with Gavin. Gavin, obviously, as we said, is a vegetarian, but let's let Natalie make her point. I find it impossible to believe that anyone actually likes tofu. What do you like about it? The lack of taste or the lack of texture? But it takes on the flavor of seasonings. You know what does that way better though? Meat. I get that veganism is good for animals and the environment, and that's really noble in honor of you, but it is a barren life of deprivation and self-denial. Just really fucking weird. And obviously she deleted those tweets. It was actually kind of funny. Vosh got in the replies and was like, I'm going to screenshot this before you delete it. But yeah, just a really weird, out of the box and kind of cringy take from somebody who normally is calling out other people for their cringy food related lack of nuance.
Yeah, like you said, this is super reminiscent of that one New York Times columnist that said like Indian food has no flavor or something like that. And there's another, and I think it was Ezra Klein who said, what did he say? Vegetarian food is terrible.
Vegetarian food is inherently worse. Vegan and vegetarian food is inherently worse. He was like, you can do it for all the honorable things. And I don't even know if Ezra Klein is still a vegan. At one point, he was really pushing the like animal rights thing on his Vox platform. I don't know if he's changed his mind on that, which is why it was extra kind of weird for him to be the one coming out. And of course, the obvious point people made was you've clearly never had Indian food, which is like 90% vegan.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Indian food is probably my favorite cuisine of all time. And it's proof that as a vegetarian, you can still eat deliciously. Because if anyone's ever had some experience with Indian food, obviously there's very famous meat related dishes too. But, you know, a lot of Indian food is majority vegetarian. There's a lot of vegetarian dishes in the Indian cuisine that are absolutely delicious. Some of my favorite food of all time. But that's kind of beside the point. ContraPoints obviously is a pretty great YouTuber. I love ContraPoints videos. They're so well made. Some of the best produced and edited and well thought out videos on all of YouTube, not just BreadTube. She really truly is an innovator in this space and has turned the YouTube video into an art form essentially. So no real shade to ContraPoints. Big fan of her content and commentary for the most part. But yeah, I do have to admit this take was pretty dog shit. We can take a look at here again at this, and yeah, as a vegetarian, I do feel particularly offended, I guess you could say, by this because it's just so untrue. And lots of people actually like tofu. In fact, it's very popular in Asian cuisine. I understand if you just get a block of tofu and like throw it on the fucking pan and, put a dash of salt on it or whatever. Yeah, it's not going to be amazing. I'm not pretending like it can't be fucked up. It truly can. And if you're not experienced and don't know what you're doing, then I can understand why you wouldn't be too into it. But if you have some experience eating different cuisines from around the world, and like I said, especially from Asia, then I think you'll understand that tofu is a very versatile ingredient. It has a lot of potential in it, and you can cook it a lot of ways. You can look up crazy videos on YouTube of how to make like tofu fried chicken, and there's all sorts of interesting techniques that you can employ when making tofu. To increase its texture, to increase its flavor, to just incorporate it into different dishes, and not just as a meat replacement, but as its own thing as well. Something that a lot of people don't know about tofu is that in a lot of cultures, it's not necessarily a meat replacement. It's often eaten alongside meat. In dishes there'll be tofu and pork, for example, and chicken. It's a ingredient that only here in America seemingly is considered this like soy boy fucking vegan meat replacement. It's more than just a meat replacement. It's not just something people eat if they don't eat meat. It's something that people can enjoy even if you do eat meat. So, for one, I just think this is a little bit uneducated sounding, and it kind of comes off as ignorant about the way people in other parts of the world eat, where again, tofu is actually a very common ingredient and has been for, years. Again, it's not like tofu was invented in 2005 to combat the fact that people were stopping eating meat and vegetarian was on the rise. No, this is a food that's been around since the beginning of time. It's basically just soybean curd. So it is what it is. Anyway, I like tofu, as you can tell. But ContraPoints also put out some other tweets on the subject that she deleted. Here you can see these tweets were deleted by the author, and I can't find the goddamn screenshots of them. I'm really annoyed by that because I wanted to show you guys these tweets. But essentially, what ContraPoints was saying was that through her conversations with most vegetarians and vegans, ContraPoints has come to the conclusion that most vegetarians, most vegans only choose not to eat meat because they don't like meat, because they, decided that, oh, I don't really like meat anyway. So it's just going to be easy for me to give it up. That was her conclusion. And that's just so goddamn wrong for many reasons. As you can see here, this commenter, I don't know who this is, but they responded, "This is so wrong. I used to be a hardcore carnivore. I used to have chicken hearts skewered on kebab sticks and lamb every week. My conscience just spoke louder than my tongue, and I went vegan. Plant-based meat alternatives are great these days anyway." And that's such a great point, especially at the end about plant-based meat alternatives, because yeah, they really have blown up in the last decade or so. And I think that that's proof that, a lot of people that go vegetarian or go vegan, they do like meat. It's very hard and very difficult for them to give it up. And obviously that's why plant-based meat alternatives are so popular. Things like Impossible Burgers or Beyond Burgers, all these new brands out there that are, filling this void for vegetarians and vegans that all of a sudden don't have, hot dogs to put on the grill or hamburgers to put on the grill at a cookout, stuff like that. Now they have something. So, I think that's proof that her take is incorrect. Like I said, unfortunately, it's been deleted, so I can't even share it with you. But essentially what she was saying is that, most vegetarians, most vegans, they just decided to do that because they don't like meat anyway. Well, that's not true at all. Like I said, I've been vegetarian for probably like 6 years now. And I'm not going to lie, there's still times where I crave meat, or I'll, be like, shit, I could really go for a pepperoni right now. It's just not true to say that vegetarians are like, oh, I just don't like meat anyway. Like, no, I mean, yeah, I think it's disgusting the way it's produced, but I'm not going to lie that I used to enjoy meat. I used to fucking love eating like, ribs and barbecue and all that shit, but I've learned to live without it. And I've learned to, expand my palate into new, interesting, arenas of the culinary experience, and I've learned to live with it. And it's not a cold, depressing, deprived lifestyle, or whatever she says, a barren life of deprivation and self-denial. So again, obviously no shade at Natalie, and she did delete these tweets, so clearly she was
ratioed to fuck. Yeah, and to be honest, she identifies correctly in her Twitter bio. Good YouTuber, bad tweeter, sums it up right there. But one of the other things that I did just want to add into this really quickly, because there was a lot of defense of the tofu hate. And I just think it's hilarious that the most fucking sold, the most demanded meat product in America, the absolute most demanded, we've genetically modified the fuck out of every chicken in this country to make it so that their breasts are like half their fucking body. Chicken breast is disgusting, guys. It is not a good quality cut of meat. In fact, it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse as the demand has got up for it. And in fact, I would say that that tofu works as a better receptacle for flavor than chicken breast, that it is easier to get crispy on the outside if you know how to fucking do it, that it doesn't absorb the oil as much as chicken tends to at times. And that's coming from somebody, or chicken breast specifically. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times when you get chicken breast nowadays, it just feels like you're chewing on a tire. Okay. Like it's just like, so that's just my 2 cents about it. And I say that as somebody who eats meat like at least 5 nights a week. I've changed my diet, but not radically. And I've come to really enjoy tofu, which is why I always thought I would never like it. I always was completely on the side of everybody else. It was just like, oh, why would I want to eat this kind of shit? Until I marinated it overnight, fucking fried it up. I was like, this is dang. It's really good with like lo mein noodles. It's very versatile.
But I did want to pull up these facts too to discuss because again, just her tweet saying that, oh, the only reason why people go vegetarian or go vegan is because they don't like meat anyway. Just to dispel that once again, here's just 11 facts about factory farms and the environment, which might help ContraPoints understand some of the actual reasons why people decide to stop eating meat or animal products in general. About 10 billion land animals in the United States are raised for dairy, meat, and eggs each year. And I think it's around 80 billion that are slaughtered every year around the world entirely. So there's a pretty fucked up fact. Factory farming accounts for 37% of methane emissions, which has more than 20 times the global warming potential of CO2. That's something that's not talked about nearly enough for obvious reasons, given how much people are afraid to face the facts about factory farming, and also just all the industry propaganda. Manure can also contain traces of salt and heavy metals, which can end up in bodies of water and accumulate in the sediment, concentrating as they move up the food chain. And this is especially true in low-income communities of color. They're often put right next to some disgusting factory farm, and they get subjected to the waste runoff, which poisons their community. Not let alone the disgusting stench of it coming through the community at all times. If you've ever been through one of those towns, you know what I'm talking about. When manure is repeatedly overapplied to farmland, it causes dangerous levels of phosphorus and nitrogen in the water supply. In such excessive amounts, nitrogen robs water of oxygen and destroys aquatic life. So again, just a huge polluter, the entire farming industry, but especially factory farming. Burning fossil fuels to produce fertilizers for animal feed crops may emit 41 million metric tons of CO2 per year. Globally, the deforestation for animal grazing and feed crops is estimated to emit 2.4 billion tons of CO2 every year. And also just the deforestation itself is devastating, especially in South America and places like Brazil. This is a huge problem, one of the leading causes of the ecocide going on in the Amazon rainforest. Corn, wheat, rice, and fast-growing crops on which humanity depends for survival are among the most nitrogen hungry of all plants. Large-scale animal factories often give animals antibiotics to promote growth or to compensate for illness resulting from crowded conditions. These antibiotics enter the environment and the food chain. Factory farms contribute to air pollution by releasing compounds such as hydrogen, sulfide, ammonia, and methane. The U.S. Department of Ag estimates that confined farm animals generate more than 450 million tons of manure annually, 3 times more raw waste than generated by Americans. The waste lagoons on concentrated animal feeding operations not only pollute our groundwater, but deplete it as well. Many of the farms use groundwater for cleaning, cooling, and drinking. So again, those are just some facts about factory farming that some people might not know about, seemingly, including ContraPoints, Natalie. But I figured it would be worth sharing those. And these don't even get into the horrific, animal rights issues when it comes to the humane treatment of animals and just how unspeakably unquantifiably cruel the conditions are and the way we process and slaughter animals in this country and around the world is. So that this list doesn't even get into that, nor does it even get into the extremely traumatizing, inhumane conditions for the workers that have to do that horrible job of killing animals all day long. Those workers are often immigrants. They're often massively exploited and underpaid in a dangerous work environment that, like I said, is also extremely traumatizing. Unless you're a literal sociopath, there's no one that wants to spend their entire day slaughtering animals. So yeah, just a terrible industry all around. And these are just some of the actual reasons why people choose to go vegetarian and vegan. It's not just because they don't like meat.